Well, that's where me and Mrs. Garza went to college. And one of our slogans at Vandy at football and basketball games is we say, anchor down. So when we're cheering on our team, we say, anchor down, Vanderbilt. So it's kind of our cheer. So when I'm teaching, instead of doing bump, 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 I'll say, oh, and then when I put my hand down, y'all go, anchor down. All right, so let's give it one try before we get started. Oh, anchor down. But we don't yell. We do it in our inside voice, all right? All right, good. So we're going to get started now with our challenge problem. We're going to take about 2 minutes. Can I have one leader read the challenge problem for us right now? Rachel.
It says Miss Saul had 3 book bags. She had 3 books in each bag.
How many books did she have?
She had 6 books.
6 books, good.
How many books does she have in all?
Great, thank you for reading that, Rachel. All right, we're going to take about 2 minutes right here. We're going to be working independently and silently to solve this problem.
Is it multiplication? What do you think these are?
Yeah, you can draw a picture. There's several different ways you can solve it.
Is it multiplication?
Just like that. I see that Natalia has already gotten started on her first problem. I see that Tia is drawing a picture to represent the words on the page. I see David's already solved the problem correctly. Thank you, David. Please sit down. When you finish the problem, please put your pencil down and track me up front so that I know that you're finished. I see Alexi's eyes. I see David's eyes. Joe Lexi. Thank you. I see that Rachel has her pencil in her hand and is working on the problem that has been assigned. I see Hassab has an answer and is tracking me up front. Take about 30 more seconds. All right, David, would you like to tell us how you solved the problem?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
At first, I drew 3 circles for each book bag and 6 lines in each book.
Kind of like this?
No. Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so you drew the picture and then what?
I didn't get it.
Did you count up all the X's? Did you use multiplication? What'd you do?
I used multiplication. 3 times 6 is 18.
Good. So 3 times 6 is equal to 18. So we can fill in for our answer 18 books. Did anyone have a different way of doing it? Yep. How'd you do it?
I did three squares.
Okay.
And I put 6 circles in each one.
Awesome. So pretty similar. So it sounds like what a lot of y'all did is y'all drew a picture to represent the bags, and then you drew the books in the bag. Drawing a picture is a great tool to help us with these equal groups multiplication problems. All right. We have a few notes that we're going to take, and that will set us up for our independent work today. So the notes section is right here. We're going to go over these, and when we're taking notes, I want y'all's notes to look exactly like mine does when we're filling these in. So our first part, in a multiplication equation, the 2 numbers that are multiplied together are called what? Think back to the objective that we read about at the beginning of the lesson. What do we call the numbers that we're multiplying together? Nyambi, do you know? Everyone tracking Nyambi in the back?
You have to multiply the numbers.
Yeah, and what do we call it when we multiply those numbers?
Factor.
Good, great. That's it, factors. We call the 2 numbers that we multiply together factors. So when we're multiplying, we're going to have two different factors for every problem. We'll have factor number 1, which we'll talk about, and factor number 2, which we'll talk about. Great job, Miami. All right, next. When two numbers are multiplied together, the answer is called the blank. So when we multiply factors together, what do we get? Natalia? A product, great. So we get the product. So when we multiply two numbers, the answer is going to be called the product. So we can fill this in this little diagram. I see that Tia is sitting silently tracking me up front. We can write it as a factor multiplied by a factor is equal to a product. And that's just what we said. That's just putting it into a math form. Sorry? Yeah, you should write it down so it looks just like that for your notes. I see that Hassah's notes look exactly like mine do up on the board. I see Tori's getting his notes down. I see Joe Lexi's got his notes down. All right, next. So we have a factor number 1 and a factor number 2. Factor number 1 refers to the number of groups. Now what we mean by that is that the number of groups, in this example up here, the challenge problem which Miss saw in the book bags, we have 3 groups. So that would be our first factor in that problem. The number of groups, we have group 1, group 2, and group 3. Does that make sense? The number of groups is factor number 1. Factor number 2 is going to be the number of objects in each group. So when we talk about the number of objects, in this case, it's the number of books. We have 6 books in each bag. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And every one is equal. Each of the 3 bags has 6 equal objects in it. All right. So what we've got now, we're going to move on to our exploration section. We've got 3 problems. This first one we're going to walk through together, and then the second one we'll be working in groups. So we'll walk through this together. I see Hassah's eyes looking up at the board reading the problem. I see David's eyes ready to work. All right, so can someone please read the directions for me? Andrea, would you like to read the directions? All right, everyone tracking Andrea in a big, strong voice.
Write a multiplication equation to represent the diagram. Explain how you wrote it using the words factors and products.
Thank you. Thank you for reading that.
Oh my god.
All right, so
Oh my god.
here's our problem. Can everyone see the dots on their page?
Yeah? Yes.
All right, so the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to draw it up here so it's a little bit bigger.
They're like little flowers.
I see that Dave is working silently. I see Tia's tracking me up front. All right, can I have one leader who would like to tell me how many groups of dots they see? Tia, how many groups do you see? You see 4 groups. I see 4 groups too. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And now looking back at our notes, which factor did we say the number of groups was? Good, factor number 1, the number of groups. So for this, our factor number 1 would be 4. All right, can I get another volunteer who'd like to tell us how